Ruja Ignatova. In 2016, a woman in a glittering dress stepped on stage at Wembley Arena and promised to change the world. Her name was Ruja Ignatova, a lawyer with a PhD, fluent in multiple languages, and armed with a pitch that felt unstoppable. She called it OneCoin, a new cryptocurrency that would dethrone Bitcoin. Investors rushed in. She held conferences in Dubai, London, Singapore. Celebrities endorsed her. Billions flowed into her accounts. So, what was the catch? OneCoin wasn't real. It had no blockchain, no actual coin, just a database, some Word documents, and clever marketing. Behind the scenes, Ruja and her team were moving money through shell companies and offshore accounts. The whole thing was a giant Ponzi scheme. More than $4 billion stolen from investors in over 175 countries. And then, in 2017, she vanished. Ruja was scheduled to appear at a OneCoin event in Lisbon. She never showed up. Later, it was discovered that she had boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia to Athens and disappeared. Some say she changed her face with plastic surgery. Some believe she was murdered by her own associates. Others claim she's still alive, living under a new identity somewhere in Eastern Europe or the Middle East. Her brother, who helped run the scam, was arrested and turned on her. He claimed they had ties to an organized crime group and that Ruja had planned her disappearance long in advance, with help. She left behind private jets, luxury homes, and countless ruined lives. In 2022, the FBI added her to their 10 most wanted list. They're offering $100,000 for any information, but years later, there's still no confirmed trace of her. She promised a revolution. What she delivered was one of the biggest financial scams in history. Carlos Ghosn. Carlos Ghosn was once one of the most powerful CEOs in the world, running both Nissan and Renault, and credited with saving both companies from collapse. After his arrest in November 2018, Ghosn spent around 130 days in detention. He was released on bail in March 2019 under strict conditions. His travel was restricted to Tokyo, cameras were placed at his door, and his passports were held by his lawyers. Police watched his every move. And yet, he vanished. In late 2019, news broke. Carlos Ghosn had escaped Japan, and no one knew how. Then, the real twist came out. He slipped out of his Tokyo apartment alone, took a bullet train to Osaka, and met the extraction team at a hotel near the airport. There, he climbed into a large black audio equipment box, drilled with holes for air. The box was loaded onto a private jet. No customs checks, no passport scanned, just gone. The jet flew to Istanbul, where Ghosn switched planes and continued to Lebanon, a country with no extraction treaty with Japan. He carried one of his Lebanese passports, which had been released to him by his lawyers that day, but Japan's exit control missed it because he never presented it at the airport. Japan was stunned. The press called it one of the boldest escapes in corporate history. Ghosn held a press conference, denied all charges, and claimed he was a victim of a political conspiracy inside Nissan. Japan called it criminal. Lebanon called it legal. He's been living in Beirut ever since, a global fugitive wanted by Interpol. Meanwhile, the men who helped him escape have faced jail time, including an ex-Green Beret who said he was just doing a job. Carlos Ghosn says he has no regrets. Jan Marsalek. In June 2020, German fintech company Wirecard collapsed in a spectacular way. It was supposed to be one of Europe's biggest tech success stories, a payment processor worth over $24 billion. But then, auditors discovered something strange. About $2.1 billion was missing, gone, just not there. The company's COO, Jan Marsalek, said that the money was in bank accounts in the Philippines. The banks said it wasn't. The documents were fake, and just as investigators closed in, Marsalek disappeared, literally overnight. He was last seen boarding a private jet to Belarus. From there, the trail goes cold. Some say he fled to Moscow. Others claim he slipped into Lebanon or Dubai. Wherever he is, he hasn't used his real passport since. Marsalek wasn't just a finance guy. Behind the scenes, he had deep connections to intelligence services, private military contractors, and shadowy networks across Europe. He reportedly bragged about having access to chemical weapons formulas and claimed he had contracts inside Russian intelligence. Some sources believe those contacts helped him vanish and are now protecting him. Interpol issued a red notice, basically an international alert asking police worldwide to find and arrest him. He's officially wanted for fraud, embezzlement, and market manipulation. But that hasn't stopped the theories. There are reports he's living under a fake identity, possibly guarded by Russian agents. Others think he's still moving around, using multiple aliases, and protected by people who have a lot to lose if he's caught. Wirecard's collapse was one of the biggest financial scandals in European history. Billions vanished. To this day, Jan Marsalek remains one of the most wanted financial fugitives in the world, and no one knows where he is. Semion Mogilevich. He's been called the most dangerous mobster in the world. Mogilevich ran one of the largest organized crime networks ever seen. Arms trafficking, financial fraud, drug smuggling, and allegedly even nuclear material deals. His influence stretched from New York to Budapest to Moscow. And he didn't do it from the shadows. He operated in the open, attending public events, holding press conferences, and even appearing on TV. In the 1990s, Mogilevich built a fake company called YBM Magnex, listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Investors poured in over $150 million. The company claimed to manufacture industrial magnets. In reality, the magnet business was just a cover. The sales were fake, the customers didn't exist, and it was all a front for money laundering. When the FBI and Canadian authorities finally raided the company's offices, the whole scheme came crashing down. But Mogilevich had already disappeared. By the time charges were filed, he was back in Russia. And that's where it gets complicated. Mogilevich is believed to be protected by high-level political connections. He's even been photographed with top officials, including Vladimir Putin. He's reportedly lived freely in Moscow for years, untouchable and unbothered, despite being on the FBI's most wanted list until 2015. U.S. law enforcement has accused him of racketeering, securities fraud, and wire fraud. But Russia has refused to hand him over. He was briefly arrested by Russian authorities in 2008, but released a year later without explanation. Some say he's retired, others believe he still has his hands in everything, especially in complex financial crimes across Eastern Europe. The FBI once offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to his arrest, but no one came forward. Mogilevich is still believed to be in Russia, still living comfortably, still considered by many to be the boss of bosses. The Lazarus Group. They don't wear masks or carry guns, but they've pulled off some of the biggest heists in history. The Lazarus Group is North Korea's most notorious state-sponsored hacker group. They've been linked to attacks on banks, governments, cryptocurrency platforms, and even Hollywood studios. Their mission? Simple. Bring in money. A lot of it, no matter how. Their work first caught global attention in 2014, when Sony Pictures was hacked after producing a comedy about the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Thousands of international emails, scripts, and unreleased films were leaked. The FBI pointed to Lazarus. North Korea denied it, but the message was clear. This was cyber warfare. Then came WannaCry. In 2017, hospitals, rail networks, and businesses in over 150 countries were hit by a massive ransomware attack. Files were locked, systems shut down, and the only way out was to pay in cryptocurrency. If they didn't, everything was gone. Once again, all signs pointed to Lazarus. But that wasn't the end of it. If anything, they were just getting started. Over the next few years, Lazarus stole hundreds of millions in cryptocurrency, from exchanges, wallets, and financial apps. In 2022, they were linked to a $620 million hack of a blockchain gaming platform, one of the biggest crypto thefts in history. And the stolen funds? Believed to have gone straight to the regime's weapons programs. Unlike typical hackers, Lazarus isn't in it for personal profit. They work directly under North Korea's intelligence agency. Experts believe they operate from inside Pyongyang, but also use foreign servers and identities to stay hidden. No one knows exactly how many people are in the group. Their code is sophisticated, their attacks are global, and they've managed to breach some of the most secure systems in the world. Governments have hit them with sanctions. Cybersecurity teams are watching their every move. But Lazarus is still out there, and probably isn't going anywhere. Yulan Adonay Archaga Carias. He's not hiding in a cave. He's not on the run. He's running the whole show. Yulan Adonay Archaga Carias is the most powerful MS-13 leader in Honduras, and one of the most wanted fugitives in the world. His face is plastered across FBI posters, and there's a $5 million reward for anyone who turns him in. But no one's talking. Archaga Carias is more than a gang leader. He's a warlord. Authorities say he controls MS-13's routes through Central America, sends orders for assassinations, and runs his empire like a paramilitary cartel. In 2015, he was arrested in Honduras on charges of violent attacks, money laundering, drug trafficking, and illegal weapons possession. He was convicted and locked up, but not for long. In 2020, heavily armed men disguised as military police stormed the courthouse where he was being held. They opened fire, leaving several guards down, and rescued him in broad daylight. Witnesses described it like a scene from a movie. The gang had more firepower than the actual police. Since then, Archaga Carias has vanished, but his influence hasn't. MS-13 activity has only grown. Extortion, violence, and drug trafficking remain widespread. U.S. authorities say he's not just surviving underground, he's commanding them from the shadows, using encrypted messages and trusted insiders to keep his operations running. Some believe he's protected by corrupt officials. Others think he moves between remote areas, guarded by a private army. What's certain is that no one's been able to touch him. The FBI considers him armed, dangerous, and possibly surrounded by violent followers. Despite the reward, despite the global manhunt, Yulan Archaga Carias remains untouchable. Bhadreshkumar Chetanbhai Patel. It was just before midnight on April 12, 2015, in Hanover, Maryland. The donut shop was nearly empty. Bhadreshkumar Chetanbhai Patel and his wife Palak were working a late shift. Security footage shows them moving calmly behind the counter. No signs of conflict, no shouting, nothing unusual. Then they walked together into the back kitchen. Minutes later, only Patel came out. What happened inside that kitchen remains one of the FBI's most chilling mysteries. Investigators say the couple had been arguing about her desire to return to India. Patel didn't want to go back, and something in that moment snapped. He left the store, walked back to their shared apartment, packed a few things, and vanished into the night. By the time police arrived, Patel was already gone. Authorities believe a relative may have helped him get out of Maryland. From there, he could have slipped into New Jersey, possibly New York. Surveillance cameras later caught him checking into a hotel near Newark Liberty International Airport. Some reports say he may have fled the country. Others think he's still in the U.S., hiding in plain sight within Indian American communities. The FBI believe he's getting help and knows how to avoid attention. He has no digital footprint, no credit cards, no confirmed sightings in years. He's described as quiet, soft-spoken, and careful, not the type to raise alarms. But his face is on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, and a $250,000 reward is being offered for information that leads to his capture. For now, Patel remains one of the most elusive fugitives in America, a man who walked away from a crime scene, left no trail, and disappeared without a trace. Julieanne and John Michael Dimitrion. They lived in a gated community in Hawaii, drove luxury cars, took lavish vacations, and ran one of the most damaging mortgage fraud schemes the state had ever seen. Julieanne and John Michael Dimitrion weren't your average fugitives. On paper, they looked like a respectable couple, successful, church-going, involved in the community. But behind the scenes, they were orchestrating a multi-million-dollar scam that would leave financial institutions struggling to recover. They convinced homeowners to sell their properties with the promise that the Dimitrions would help them avoid foreclosure and rebuild their credit. Instead, they used fake paperwork and fake companies to steal the properties, take out new loans, and keep the cash. The owners got kicked out. The banks got scammed. In 2009, they pled guilty and were due to be sentenced on July 6, 2010. But before they could serve their time, they vanished. Authorities believe they left Hawaii and headed to the U.S. mainland. A few years later, they were added to the FBI's wanted white-collar crimes list for financial fraud. A couple with no history of weapons or threats now had the full weight of federal manhunts on their backs. The case drew attention not just because of the scam, but because of how completely they disappeared. No credit cards, no social media, no digital trail. Some believe they had help, possibly from others in their community who didn't want to believe the truth. Despite tips and sightings, the Dimitrions have managed to stay off the radar for over a decade. Bekal Bounouare. He's known by many names: Colomo, Pacho, Pachito, Suile, but authorities across Europe know him as Sammy Bekal Bounouare, a suspected contract killer linked to multiple assassination attempts. He was born in Spain but had ties across borders, holding both Spanish and Moroccan passports. He spoke Dutch, Spanish, French, Moroccan Arabic, possibly even English. Blending in was never a problem. In June 2024, authorities in the Netherlands linked him to an attempted contract attack in Haarlem. The intended target? An Iranian activist and publicist. But that wasn't his first suspected operation. In 2021, Bounouare was allegedly involved in a fatal targeted assault in Capelle aan den IJssel, Netherlands. Then, in November 2023, a former Spanish politician was seriously injured in Madrid. Investigators believe Bounouare played a role in that attack as well. Bounouare has been on the run since. His last known residences were in the Netherlands, primarily Rotterdam, but also Schiedam and 's-Hertogenbosch. However, sightings have placed him in Colombia, Brazil, Turkey, Spain, and Qatar in recent years. Dutch authorities have issued a €50,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. Despite the international manhunt, Bounouare remains out of reach. Now, imagine you'd have to escape North Korea. How would you do it? Well, to get some inspiration, watch the video you now see on the screen. Thanks for watching.